Yeah, that's the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak. Of course, my co-host, Steve Kallas. Steven, how are you, my friend?
Oh, good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too. August 1st. It is training camps underway. Everybody's in. Everybody's in, except maybe Aaron Donald. But Baker Mayfield, he showed up. He had a nice little opening press conference this week with he kind of blasted the organization. Didn't get the deal he wanted, and I think that's kind of the lead story. Obviously we're waiting to see if Aaron Donald shows up. Jalen Carter with the Eagles became the highest paid defensive lineman ever. But to start with Baker Mayfield, what did you think of that?
I don't think he's wrong. I mean, given what you can get for quarterbacks and what they're making now, I don't know what the offers were, but apparently there were a couple of offers that he didn't accept. Um, but I was watching Mike T, the guy who used to be the GM of the Jets, and they said, or maybe it was even Shefty, that they can franchise tag him. But I think he's a free agent after this year. I don't think you can you franchise a tag guy when his contract is up? I don't know because I saw on ESPN that he's going to be an unrestricted free agent if he plays this year and doesn't have a contract. So I'm not sure that they can or can't, but um, Baker Mayfield, you want him on your side. He's a very good NFL quarterback. Is he good enough to win the Super Bowl? That's an open question. He had the whole thing with Brady last year, I think it was, right? When Brady said, "Okay, let me know when you win a Super Bowl," which is un-Brady-like, but you shouldn't compare yourself to Tom Brady, in my opinion.
Right.
Um, but he deserves a gigantic contract. Look, who is it? Who is it that makes 60 million a year and doesn't this year?
Dak.
Yeah, Dallas is going to win the Super Bowl this year. Come on, man. But I will say this, uh, and I'm sure that Baker Mayfield knows it. He's losing Evans. Evans is gone. Who's replacing Evans? Nobody.
Nobody.
So I don't know. He's got good passing numbers, although they put up what he was last year. I know they went 2-7, I want to say, the last 9 games.
Yeah, they
Right,
tanked. He's
two
making
and nine.
27 million this year, which obviously well, it's a
For
lot of
him
money
is
for me,
low.
but
He, no, because Daniel Jones, who proved his worth,
Yep.
he got 40 million.
Yep.
And then he's going to get more. And I don't know where Baker Mayfield fits in, but we went through the list last year. Everybody between 50 and 60 million hadn't won a Super Bowl. There were like five or six guys there. Mahomes, I think, has taken less money. Brady always took less money. That's a big part. If you want to be a big time winner, you have to be willing not to take that much money. But for what he's getting for Baker Mayfield, what he's getting this year, he's easily a $50 million quarterback. Maybe he wants more when he looks at those guys.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's a problem. To me, it's like stupid money because if you go to football games or baseball games or basketball games, hockey is expensive, but not crazy compared to those other three. But if you're old enough, and I'm old enough, it's like stupid money to park. You go to a Yankee game, it's like $35, $40 to park.
It's
My
stupid
father
money.
and I went to 35 games at $1 a game in the bleachers 100 years ago. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems so ridiculous. And my pet peeves about trying to find games on Apple TV, which I don't have, Amazon Prime, which I really have more for the Amazon delivery stuff, but you can catch a baseball game or whatever. And then football this year, these guys are paying 100 million for one game last year, right? One playoff game it was. And it's just stupid money, and I'm sorry, nobody really thinks about the fan like the old days. I go on the S network every time it's the Yankees, and I'm going to guess that there's like 25 games a year. You can't find them on the Yankee station. That's not so good.
It's not good.
And by the way, nowadays, of course, if you want the Yes Network, you're paying some cable TV bill.
I know.
It's very sad state of affairs. Nobody really talks about it anymore. There's really nothing that can be done about it. But it's disgusting. And I think for the older baseball fan or the older football fan, um, I'm going to get that Sunday ticket. When you get it, you can give it to one other person. So Johnny's going to get it. He's out in Chicago now, or he's living in Illinois. But you can give it to one person throughout the country. So now you got two guys. It's like 500 a pop for the year.
It is a lot.
Um, but that's the way it is. I think when it came out, it was on Direct TV. I thought it was like,
Yeah,
I
it
don't know,
was.
150 a year or something. And what I loved about that, which I don't think you can do now, and this is when I found out, they could do every play of every game, and you could watch any game you wanted in less than a half an hour. You could
I
watch
like
it in
that.
25. And when you think about that and what they do on TV games, 3 hours, three and a
Hmm.
half, you got more, you got an hour in commercials, probably more,
Yeah.
So it's disappointed what's happened. You need a little money if you really want to watch fill in the blank. I was getting the MLB channel for part of my sports thing, and then literally one day they just sent me a thing. If you want the MLB for Major League Baseball, it's 199 for the year. And I'm sorry, I don't have the MLB network. You can run it through maybe the ESPN app or whatever. My goodness. I think it's just wrong. But in terms of the players, is Jalen Carter, you tell me, Jalen Carter, 4 years, 152 million, 116 guaranteed, highest defensive tackle ever. Should he be?
That's the kind of debate around here. I mean, listen, it's not my money, of course. They pass it on to the fans who go to the games and who watch these things, and they're pricing everyone out. But I mean, he's got what 13 and a half sacks like his over his career, but he's not like the Aaron Donalds or the Miles Garrett's. He occupies double teams. He draws a lot of attention, which frees other guys up. He had that one sack against the Rams in the playoff game right before the conference championship game that could have been a problem if he doesn't sack Matthew Stafford. That's what he's kind of. I think people in this town look back on that and are like, well, he had that sack and helped him win a Super Bowl, so give him what he wants. But he's not the dominant player, and he does things, spitting on Dak last year, and he gets a lot of personal fouls for doing stupid stuff and fighting with the coach on the sidelines, and he's got some of those issues. He does have a weight clause in his contract. I think gets an extra 250,000 if he keeps his weight under a certain amount because he's. I mean, Jordan Davis, he one of his teammates in Georgia trimmed down and he became a much more productive player. In fact, some people think he's more productive than Jalen Carter, but Carter was
Well, it's
drafted.
what you said when we used to talk about the quarterbacks every year. Who's next? Who's
Who's
next?
next?
Who's the next guy? But I want to go back to Baker just briefly because he should make a lot more than he does make. But also the other problem with Tampa now, to me, they haven't recovered since Brady left. Are they a good team? Yeah, they're a good team. Are they really a Super Bowl winning team? No. But not only is Evans not going to be there, and Baker Mayfield will play with a chip on his shoulder, I think he'll play well. He's good at doing that. Um, but Vita Vea asked for a trade.
Hmm.
He's in the last year of his contract, but there's no guaranteed money. And he had signed 4 years, 71 million. So he got his first three, but there's no guaranteed money here. He wants out. I'm guessing he wants a new contract, and they didn't make him a happy offer. And a lot of guys would go for him because you talk about certainly when Brady was there, he was kind of a dominant player, and he still is an excellent player. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but his contract is up, and then next at the end of the season, he'll be a free agent if they don't take care. In fact, he has to be traded. Now, I don't know what you can get for him. You probably can get something real good for him. I don't know what the league view is of him, but certainly, especially during the Brady years, this guy was a dominant player, and he's still an excellent player. So we'll see what happens with that. I think they've got some problems though. Debo Samuel back to the 49ers, 6 years with the 49ers, got traded to the Commanders last year, played 1 year for them, and now he's back with the 49ers. But the 49ers who always seem to be loaded, always seem to be injured. So I don't know what's
They're
going to
always
happen to
banged
them.
up. They're trying to figure out what. There's talk about the practice field is near some like I don't even know how to say it. Like
What,
it's
toxic air
yeah,
or
one of
something?
those
Really?
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
electric because but yes, because they're finding that their players seem to be injured a lot. And I mean, they are kind of injured a lot. You know what I mean? They were banged up last year when they came in and beat the Eagles in the wild card. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
know what their window is. Kyle Shanahan, it's obviously not related, but gets in a car accident, and they're a little. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't know what to make of the Niners. If their window is closed, or if they're always kind of here and there and up and down, and they made a couple trips to the Super Bowl, didn't quite get it done against the Chiefs twice. But yeah,
Nothing against the coach, but I always go back to the
I know the game
Atlanta
against the
Super Bowl.
Patriots.
I'm sorry. I remember saying to Johnny, they take three knees here, and I forget who it was, but he was a reliable
Matt Bryan
kicker.
was their kicker.
It would have been like a 40 or 41-yard field goal. I'll never forget that because there was just a few minutes left, and if they kicked a field goal, they're up 11, not 8.
That's the ball game.
Uh, and not that there's a curse on him, but it was just such bad play calling.
He dropped
Um,
back. He dropped Matt Ryan a seven-step
worst
drop.
sack ever. That's
Yeah,
probably the worst sack ever.
ever.
Um, but whatever. But just quickly on the Patriots. So AJ Brown, obviously, big step up. But as you know, last year they had the easiest schedule in football. Nobody expected them to do what they did. Nobody expected them to get to the Super Bowl. This year, they're the third pick. I didn't see all the numbers, but they're the third team to win the Eastern Conference. Um, and so they have now the sixth hardest schedule. I'm surprised it's that low. I thought it would be like first or second, right? You're in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But I think just the schedule itself, with everybody laying for them this year, they were a big surprise last year. So I should have called Johnny, but I think he's in the air right now, taking a plane back to Chicago. And but I think just on schedule alone, from easiest schedule to sixth hardest, that's a tough thing. So I'm not the diehard Patriots fan that Johnny is. I'm actually a Giants fan, and I'm seeing all these things about how the Giants are going to be much better, and hopefully they are. But they were horrific last year.
Yeah.
They weren't bad. They were, and managed once again, as we seem to talk about with the Giants a lot, managed once again to win a game or two towards the end, and lose any chance
Broke a
they had
draft. Right.
to get the number one pick. But whatever. Also, Neighbors, the wide receiver, is back. He had an ACL tear. So I think the Giants will be okay, but I don't even know if they're a playoff team. If they go 9-8, I think most people would be happy since they're winning, only like 4 games a year
Hmm.
or or whatever it's been. Briefly on the Browns, I know everybody always talks about the Browns, they'll be better, but I don't think they'll be better. But they did give Denzel Ward 2 years, 62 million, super cornerback, but now the highest paid DB in the history of the NFL. Down in New Orleans, they get Olave 4-year extension, 132 million, 90 guaranteed. They signed Travis Etienne with him and Kamara. Now I know Kamara's hurt on and off, but now they have two real good running backs. I don't know that they're going to be real good, but they're at least tying up their really good players like Olave. I think people were trying to get him, and they just signed him, and everyone will have to forget about him right now, I think. Other than that, the only other thing I wanted to talk about is I've seen a few things. Aaron Rodgers has now said this is my last year. He's going back to the Steelers. Um, but I was watching NFL Live, Mina Kimes and Mr. T, I forget his name, but he was the Jets guy for many years, the Jets GM, and he knows the stuff. But they put up a thing, Aaron Rodgers last year, getting 22 million this year, by the way. Aaron Rodgers last year, his air yards per attempt, 5.8 per attempt, and that was last in the NFL. So I don't know how much better they're really going to be.
They're
I think,
not. They're
I,
just not.
yeah, I think he has enough to play okay, and I think
Yeah, he's got
he
enough
did.
to. They're going to be okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, new coach. But he's better than a lot of quarterbacks, but they're still trying to find their guy. They haven't had their guy since Ben Roethlisberger.
And I saw Tua with the Falcons now, um, but he practiced once, and then he had a tight back or something, and then he practiced again. And I don't know where it is with Tua now. You actually knew you certainly thought he'd be better than I thought. And he was real good. But
He did have a stretch, and then yeah,
so we'll see.
Tanksville,
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
and the
It's
concussions didn't help.
gonna be fascinating, and it's gonna start. I think they said the first exhibition game is like August 5th or something. We'd rather get closer to the season, but we'll do whatever we have to do.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. I mean, I know when that game comes on, like it's more like the thought of it's more exciting because then when you turn it on, you're like, oh, this game stinks. But I mean, at least it's on in the background. It's like real football. Better than preseason basketball. The 76ers first preseason game tickets are going for $300 a piece.
Like I said, it might be stupid by the teams, but it's stupid by the people who are going to pay 300 for an exhibition game.
Crazy.
And how much of the stars going to play in the first exhibition game?
All right. I mean, they might get a shot of LeBron, on the bench or something.
I don't even know what to say about that, but sometimes I guess we do it to ourselves
We
as
do it
fans.
to, yeah, we do it to ourselves, pretty much. All right. Well, I know your pick, and I like your pick when you picked the Phillies to win the whole thing, and it's only the first day of August. All right. So, as much as I wasn't too down when they were 10 games, when they had lost that 10, 11 games in a row. I wasn't too up when they were 3 games back of the Braves. And since the All-Star game, first of all, that All-Star game in Philly was a nightmare. Kyle Schwarber loses, on a miraculous, run by what's his name, the guy from the Cardinals. And then our guy who hasn't given up a run in like 9 years gives up 3 runs in the first inning. And then, I mean, it was just a disastrous All-Star game, and they've tanked since. And Bryce Harper's coming out and saying we need to improve our team. The manager doesn't like that you said that because he's kind of I mean, he's taking a shot at his own teammates, maybe not right to their face, but he said in the locker room, the guys are standing around like he's like, yeah, we got to get better. Like management's got to do something at the deadline, which is August 3rd. So Bryce Harper's now, chirping, and there's a lot of upheaval, and they lost again to the Orioles last night, and they lost a couple to the Marlins, and the Yankees beat them up last weekend. So they're now 8 games back of the Braves, and they're one game they're one game up over the Padres in third for the third wild card spot now. But it's early. What do you make of what's going on with the Phillies? To
Well,
me, that's who they are. That's kind of who they are.
the Phillies are 3-10 since the All-Star break, and that's the worst record in baseball. And even worse, they're 1-8 in their last nine. Hard to believe, but they've kind of now what we see them as an up and down team. Of course, my answer would be okay, so they have the last playoff spot right now, but they're 57 and 53, and I'll say it forever. In the old days, the old days, it was like, oh, you're around 500, oh, good for you. You're improving as a team, and maybe next year you can get up to like third place. Those days, of course, have been gone for since Roger Maris had 61 home runs in 61, because that was the first expansion they had had in forever. So the other team has almost become Phillies-like and maybe better than the Phillies now. The Red Sox, who were horrific. I mean, I even saw some big-time Red Sox fans just kind of write them off already. And all they did in the month of July was go 21-4, which turns out to be the best month in the history of the Red Sox, surpassing, I think it was the Red Sox of 1950 with Ted Williams. Of course, whenever you say to me about baseball between 1949 and 1953, all I'm saying is, well, that's great, but they were just going to lose to the Yankees because the Yankees won the World Series every time those 5 years in a row. Um, and then they went back to Cy Young in like 1901 or something, but none of them have done better than the Red Sox have done in July. My only pet peeve about that is, which we've spoken about for years, but certainly before the show today, is does that mean that if, for example, from June 15th to July 14th or July 15th, you tell me there's been no time in history when the Red Sox didn't do better than that? I don't know the answers because they just go by month. Now, some months have 30 days, some months have 31 days. So does that give them an advantage? Does anybody really care? But the point is with the Red Sox, as you told me, they won 15 in a row in that 21-4 record. I mean, that's incredible nowadays.
Incredible.
And they're right back in it. They're 58 and 51. They're in the hunt.
Right.
Um, the Yankees still up and down. You can't really complain when guys miss time, but Stanton has missed so much time. Aaron Judge has missed a lot of time. Um, and the Yankees are hanging in there now. They're 62 and 48. There was a time when they went down to, I think, 8 games over 500 or whatever. But the Yankees shut out the Cubs the other day. This was yesterday, I think, 2-0. And they now have 11 shutouts this year. And guess what the team is? Only one team has more than 11 shutouts this year. Do you know who it is, Joe? They've got 12. Do you know who it is?
I do not.
It's my Philadelphia Phillies. They have the most shutouts this year, 12, Yankees 11, and now the Red Sox coming on, they have 10. So, again, interesting numbers to have in the middle of the season. But I'll also give you one when the Yankees lost to the White Sox in extra innings. And you know what I think about the man on second base to start the 10th
Oh, don't even start.
beer league football. But the
Hmm.
Yankees are 1-8 in extra innings. They're the worst team in baseball when it comes to extra innings. Now, you don't have a Stanton who can come out and pinch hit. You don't have a Judge who can play or come out and pinch hit. So you could say, well, yeah, they're 1-8, but um, Yankees are also 38 and 4 when they have more than one home run in the game, and they're number one in the major leagues in that as well. And you got to give them some credit because they are hitting some home runs without their two best home run hitters when they're healthy. But I don't know. Do they look like a championship team? Not to me, and I'm a Yankee fan.
Hmm.
But Schlittler, and I'm sick of hearing people say, "Oh, you have to be careful when you say his name." But Schlittler, I think he's the favorite to win the AL Cy Young now. Whereas Keynes in the National League with Pittsburgh, he gave up 5 earned runs again. He had never done that before this year, and now he's done it a few times. And I don't know if he just is giving up. I don't know if Keynes wants out. Uh, I think he probably does. Do you want to be on a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates? I don't think so. But we'll see what happens. It might be the Brewers might be the best team of all, 68 and 41. And
Yeah,
the Dodgers are right there with that, close to that record. Um, and the Braves. Yeah, I don't know if the Phillies can catch the Braves, but maybe if they're I don't know if you want to be the first wild card, but
right,
we'll see what happens. But it's what you said early on when everybody was giving up on the Phillies. And then everybody's given up on the Red Sox.
right. It'll
Uh,
swing. It'll swing. That's what happens, and then it'll. We'll see what happens in October. But that's who the Phillies are.
and nobody says it anymore, or maybe you said it early in the season, but baseball is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Exactly.
I was talking to Johnny about baseball in general. I said, Johnny, if Major League Baseball was 17 games in the season, what do you think the attendance would be in every week? It would be incredible. You can't count how much the attendance would be, but it's
Right.
162. I've said for decades they should go back to 154. You have all the 154 game records going up to I don't know when, maybe it was 1961. I think it was when they went to 162. And then we had the thing, Maris beats Ruth, but hold it, he played 8 more games than Babe Ruth did. What if Babe Ruth had 8 more games? Um, One of my favorite players of all time, Ichiro, he got the most hits in the year, 262. George Sisler, who nobody's ever heard of. By the way, there's a biography of George Sisler out there, and anybody who likes baseball should go read that one. Uh, he had the record 257 hits in a 154 game season. So if you gave him 8 more games, you think he'd get 6 more hits? I
Mhm.
do. But of course, it is what it is. So I still think they should go back to 154. I just think
I'd
it's
love to
too
see
much
that.
baseball. And now when you have football starting, you know how it is. They get a they're back seated until the
Totally
playoffs. Even
backseated
then.
until October.
Yeah, and maybe then you even need to get to the World Series before
Exactly.
it's a big thing. And you see how baseball and even other sports, if it overlaps, you just try to avoid football games. If you have another sport,
Absolutely. Stay away.
you're not playing Monday nights
All
anymore.
right. You're not.
Playing Sunday nights anymore. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But you know what that's all about, and that's
That's this. It's
all
all
about the
about
money.
this.
So
Soon it's going to be when can you play? Because the NFL is like going to have Tuesday night games and throw in some Wednesdays.
no, I think that's going to happen. I think you're right. I mean, I think they might be talking about it. Um, I interviewed John Mara, who I know a little bit. I interviewed him. I found the tape just by accident because I'm going through all these boxes since I moved in with Joyce. Um, he said in 2011, I interviewed him, and he said, "Yeah, the NFL is looking for an 18 game schedule, and I think it's going to happen." And of course, eventually it's gone to 17. It hasn't gone to 18. I don't know why players would want to do anymore because I just think you're finding out too many CTE guys. I forget the guy's name, DeVell, maybe. I should ask Johnny. Was a guy in the Patriots who shot, I don't know if he shot himself, but he committed suicide. And they said we can't find out if he's got CTE because he killed himself.
Right.
And virtually all these guys who lose their minds or suddenly have different changes, they're quiet and then now they're screamers and they're hurting people. It's usually a sign of CTE because all these football players, not just the linemen, but all these football players could be getting in trouble. And I don't know how it's going to change. I know there was some kind of special. What is the NFL going to do about CTE? And as you know, they covered it up for years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got nothing to do. And they got some doctors to say it. Um, but by now, everybody knows it's a very dangerous thing. And, maybe the trick is to get your money and get out. I don't know. You can get it now. High school kids have it, college kids have it. So that's a big problem that the NFL has not solved, and they can tell you everything they're doing. You can have the greatest helmets in the history of the world. That's not going to stop you from getting a concussion if you get hit the wrong way at the wrong time.
Right.
So again, the players are, whatever the average is, was it now 3 years, 3.5 years
I know. It's a short shelf life. That's why
and it's very,
get the money while you can.
I agree.
But yeah, it's I'm looking at these schedules. Like the Eagles play at home Christmas Eve at 8:15. Like you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. While these
Merry Christmas in Philly. Yeah, absolutely.
right, right.
Santa Claus better not show up. That's all I
Oh,
can
he's
tell you.
getting bombed. They're playing in Texas. They start losing that game, he's getting bombed. Yeah, that's a suicide mission. Depending on how their season's going. Good stuff, my friend. Yeah, the Eagles. I mean, football's it's coming up. It's here. You know what I mean? Like they get that Hall of Fame game going, and then there's only three preseason games, thank God, anymore. And they tacked one on. And I think because of this, I think there will be an 18 game schedule at some point. They'll take away another preseason game or something. And there was talk before, like, well, we'll have the 18 game season, but there's two games where they won't have their starters playing. It's like a weird thing. Like that's not gonna, you know what I mean? And you can't play your starting quarterback in some of those games. You're like, what? It was a little crazy. I think they got rid of that, but who knows?
Maybe it's going to be load management in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I'll give you a quick one on that. So suppose you're a quarterback and making 51 million, and there's probably six or seven or eight of them already. And suppose you're in the 17 game schedule, you're getting 3 million a year. So what happens the day that it happens, which I think you're right, it'll come eventually. But suppose then you're playing 18 games. Does your salary go up 3 extra million? I don't know. I don't know because now you're playing extra games. Just one extra game in the NFL means what? You can get your head hit how many times your head
Right.
how many times if you're a lineman.
Oh,
But
they're every play
right. But
in
even if they're
practice. Think about how many times in practice, boom, just off the snap, boom. You're
even
hitting a
even
shoulder pad or something. Those guys.
even if you're a quarterback and you know how to slide, and
Hmm.
and a lot of them don't. I mean, you got to slide if you're a quarterback. But we'll see what happens. But do I think that's going to happen eventually? Probably is going to happen eventually. I remember at the beginning when they were going to go 17, the players were like, no, 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 no.
Right.
When they gave him something in the pension plan or
Of
something,
course.
they gave him something, and it had to be a lot for them to go another game, and it'll have to be a lot more to go for another game.
Go another game. Injuries. I mean, there is a real thing with. I mean, football is crazy. When you think about, I told you, Sheldon Brown. You said no one is healthy in the NFL after week one. He would tell me that. He'd be like, "Well, hey, stupid! You keep asking that question. No one is healthy after week one in the NFL." I know what he means, and that's not everyone has a major injury, but everyone, you dinged up.
It's a brutal game.
It's a brutal game. Good stuff, my friend. You can catch Steve's stuff daily on his Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. You can catch this podcast weekly on YouTube and all the audio outlets. We usually tape Saturday morning like we're doing now. And during the season, we do a pregame, pre-NFL game weekend, Friday, Saturday, and then we do a Tuesday after the Monday night game. Another podcast, so that'll be coming up soon. But you can follow me on Twitter at Joe Staszak 975 or on Instagram at JoeStaszak4799. Good stuff, my friend. Enjoy your first week of August, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too, pal. I'll talk to you soon.